this character, I remember him so well. He was one of these guys who wandered around, and he was what they call a billet. And a billet was the guy who kind of swept the floors and kept the place reasonable. And they usually used prisoners for that who, weren't very good at anything else. And he's wandering around the floors one day, and he comes up to me and he said, "Sir, can I have a chat to you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, I've got something personal I want to talk to you about." And I said, all right. So I stepped off into a little room, and he said, "I have an alibi." He said, "I shouldn't be here." Well, first of all, what he had wasn't an alibi at all, but he used that. Now, he'd been talking to a few jailhouse lawyers. And he said, "Well, I'm here for rape." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I was convicted of rape, and I'm doing, I think, 5 or 6 years, something or other." And I said to him, "Well, what's the issue?" And he said, "Well, I got to tell you what happened." And I said, "All right, tell me what happened." And he said, and he gave the name of a hotel, I can't remember, somewhere in Reservoir. And he said, "I was drinking there." And he said, about 11 o'clock at night, I got lucky. And he said, this woman said she'd go up. He said, I had a room for the night. And he said, this woman said she'd go up with me. So he said, I went up with her. And he said, I took her to my room. And he said, about 15, 20 minutes later, she kicked me out of bed, left. And I said, well, what's the problem? And he said, well, I didn't rape anybody. And I said, oh, yeah? And he said, but he said, I got lucky again about 1 o'clock. He said, I went down, had some more drink. I went down again. And he said, another woman went with me. And he said, up to the room she went. And he said, went through the same thing. And he said, I just had too much to drink. I couldn't perform. So he said, and I said, oh, yeah, fair enough. So he said, well, the woman who kicked me out of bed the first time complained and said I raped her. And he said, at 1 o'clock I couldn't perform. He said, so how could I do it at 11 o'clock? He said, someone's got to know this. I said, yeah, fair enough. So I said, well, look, you can write to the public solicitor. Because I said, now it's called it's got a commission now, but at that time we had a public solicitor. I said, you write a letter out and you tell them exactly what happened, and maybe someone will have a look at it. And he said, okay. So he said to me, well, he didn't at the time, but next thing I know, about a week later, someone said, the prisoner who wrote a letter about the complaint that he had wants you to read it before it goes. I laughed myself silly because it was all this stuff that he told. So basically what he said to the public solicitor was, it's in the book, he said the public solicitor, the same story about not being able to perform and all that. And he said, well, now, he said, if they could just find this first woman, and he said, if you can find her, she would be able to tell you that no way could I rape someone at 1 o'clock because I couldn't do it at 11. And he said, therefore, he said, you got to find her. He told this public solicitor. And he said, now, I don't know her name, but he said, I know the tattoo she had on the inside of her thigh. And he said, and she was missing 2 teeth. So he said, if you would go to these 2 hotels in Reservoir, because he said she drinks at both of those, and find this woman, and then someone could take her aside, strip her clothes off, that's what he said in the letter, and check to see if she had these tattoos I told you about, and if she was missing 2 teeth, she'd be able to tell you the story. Anyway, that's the letter he wrote. He then got a letter back from the public solicitor, who I knew George very well, and he said, we've had a good look at this, and we don't think we'll be able to take it any further, so sorry, we're not going to reopen your case.